Hey friends. Well, I I almost showed up today and 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 ignored what I spoke about yesterday on my post, which, if you happen to catch it, was all about creating specific, tangible goals. And in my particular case, really defining what the next, I'm calling it 3 months of my life. Now, chances are it's going to be more than that, but I'm learning about myself that one of my evasive maneuvers, as I wrote, I believe, in my video description yesterday, one of my mind's favorite evasive maneuvers is to envision big things, big dreams, and then as it comes time to start to map my way to those dreams, to just pretend like I don't either know what I'm doing, there's no way to get there now. I'm actually really doing that work now, even though it's not connected and there's no specific way in which this vision is really being pursued, but I just convince myself that I'm on my way somehow. So, knowing this is something that gives me some measure of power and some measure of control over it. And it was so funny because I think I titled my post yesterday "A New Chapter," and as Katie and I were chatting last night, she said to me, "I feel like you're in a new chapter. I feel like you're not in the same place that you were when we left for Michigan." And that was only 2.5 weeks ago. So that was kind of cool to hear. Really, it was a nice affirmation because I sense that as well. And so, what's really left is for me to get really specific about something for the next 3 months. And I'll tell you, what's on the table right now is a mindful piano course, which is something that I've been teaching for a couple of years now privately, and I actually have a course that I've already rolled out, and I think it needs some updates. I've run several waves of it now, at least 3 or 4 or 5 waves of the course. So in other words, full cycles. Some of those were overlapping cycles, but I've run it start to finish and worked with people start to finish 4 or 5 times. And I was kind of amazed at how well it worked for my first try, for my first shot at constructing something like that. It really did kind of go deep. Now, since then, I've learned so much about my own playing and about the instrument of the piano. I've been studying with my own teacher, who I found hilariously by putting my own course out there. I discovered a teacher who had the potential to really transform my playing. So I've had a kind of upgrade of all of my own faculties. And I'm in the midst of a training right now that's all about that. But that domain is one area that's online for me as a really good possibility. Then there's my passion for the other work that I'm also already doing, which is what I'm calling creative spirituality. The process of approaching a creative career and creative work in general, the creative process as a spiritual path, so as a form of spiritual practice. And it's hilarious again to me. I mean, I suppose this is so much the way it works, but I have actually found in the course of my life, I've spent a lot of time studying from people who were teaching something very similar to this. They weren't calling it quite the same thing, but I had a teacher in London who taught the spiritual psychology of acting, and it was a meditation-based exploration of how the mind works for the purpose of gathering a kind of toolkit of psychological techniques for creating characters. I did another training in London that was also a form of acting or theater training that was more physical in nature, but also taught by someone who had a deep meditative background and had been a Buddhist monk, I believe, for several years. And so when I go and say, I've got a great idea, it's called creative spirituality, it's like, duh, I've been literally training in this my entire life. I've just been waiting for it to emerge. And of course my own creative practice I feel has kind of given me a scaffold of experiences that ultimately become a map. They ultimately become a kind of I don't know what the word is, but it's, you know, a process, a creative process, where we learn to identify certain threshold moments. We learn to identify phase changes and phases themselves. We learn to identify how our subconscious is constantly speaking to us through creative work. Our subconscious is literally always talking to us and telling us, look, here's what you're trying to say. Look. And it's not only so easy to see that, it's very easy to think that for our conscious mind to be totally dominant and to believe that it knows what we're really saying. And if we are not aware that that's not how it works, that what's driving art and what's driving creativity is something much deeper, then we're gonna experience the creative process as being on again, off again, on again, off again. We're on track, off track, on track, off track. We're going to be off track probably more than we're on track if we're not listening to that deeper part of ourselves that's always speaking to us. So that's another domain / course that I want to launch. And then the third thing, it's always kind of bizarre to me that I come back to this, but I've had a Qigong practice and a yoga practice for many, many years now, and I will tell anyone who will listen that my simple physical routine in the morning, it's my physical routine plus meditation, is the foundation of literally everything I do. And without it, I can hardly function. It's so important to my state of being in a healthy and aligned place in everything from my physical body to the emotional, psychological, spiritual body, that it almost feels totally primary in a way to these other two things that I've just talked about. There's this physical aspect to it, and I will say, it's the thing that emerged in the chronology of my life. It's the thing that emerged first. The first thing I did was get really serious about, I've got to sort out how to manage tension in my physical body, because if I can't do that, then I'm just going to accumulate tension to the point where my physical body will wear down, and I won't have the energy or the time or the capacity to focus on any of this other stuff that feels so important and that I love so much. But it's gonna if I don't sort out my kind of organism's ability to be healthy, then I'm not gonna have the energy to do this other work. I'm not gonna have the headspace. I'm not gonna have the peace of mind, peace of body. So that's another one where I feel like I have something to offer, and I feel like I've done a lot of work, and I've had some excellent, amazing teachers, and I've done some pretty consistent individual exploration. And when I think about, well, what would I like to share, and what would I if I could say make a living off of teaching something, I mean, any of the three things I just mentioned sound spectacular to me. I could do them all day, every day. You know, as long as I also had time to do my own creative work and keep pursuing the projects that I'm really passionate about, and keep putting my attention on that process I could do it all day. I could sit. You put me in a room with people who want to talk about a movie, talk about making a movie, talk about writing a play, talk about writing a song, talk about writing a sketch. You want to do that work? I will be there 23 hours a day. It's like I have this inexhaustible reservoir of energy for that. And part of what I've kind of struggled with is, where's my, you know, if that's not already sustaining me financially, then where's that? How do I use my energy in the most efficient way so that I can put as much of myself as possible in that direction, in that realm? So, without deciding now which of those kind of three things is the one, I am putting them out there, and I'm sharing them with you because I get the sense that, you know, at some point I'm just going to have to pull the trigger, and I may not have a very clear, like, oh, this is the one impulse at any point. You know, it may be that all three of these are part of my work at some point, but my tendency is to say all three of these are part of my work, and then not follow through on any of them. Just do a little bit and kind of like not quite get over the initial threshold on any of them. So that's where, when I say I'm in a new chapter, the new chapter feels like my chance to say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm not doing right now, and it's okay that I'm not doing it. I may do it later. I can decide later to do it. But right now, I'm going to let nothing take me off course with this intention. This is the thing I'm doing. And give that 3 months. 3 months is an amount of time, like I said yesterday. Even if I hate it, I can handle 3 months. And come on, you heard me just talking about these 3 elements in my life. There's no way I'm going to hate it. Whatever, if any of them are going to be, I'm going to be passionate about them. There's just going to be sticking points, and there's going to be moments where it's like, oh, now this is getting really hard. These other 2 areas of my life look so attractive. What if I chose wrong? No. This is my own I'm dramatizing, but not really. This is actually just kind of how the inside of my brain sounds sometimes. Anyway, now you know what I'm wrestling with. I have committed to kind of stating, making a decision and sort of going on record with it. So stay tuned. I'm not gonna let this go until I actually decide. I'm not trying to give myself a deadline of like, I'll know in 2 days. But you know, some sort of like time frame that doesn't allow me to just fizzle out into not doing it seems appropriate. A week at the most, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for following me on this. Thanks for being my sounding board. Thanks for this conversation. It means the world to me. I appreciate you. All the love in the world. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.